Alrighty, you YouTube mother lovers, welcome back to the show. Had to steal that from one of my favorite YouTubers, like if you know what YouTuber that's from. It's one of his signature catchphrases. But we've got another cast coming your way today on Neuroxis Map Generator 1.9.0 underscore J8. Okay, we're not going all through the map name. It's a map gen. We've seen all these before. I'm turning into a map gen caster. I'm realizing I think that's almost all I cast. That's also because that's all I play. So maybe I'm just only casting what I play. But anyway, let's go ahead and introduce our players. We got team 1 up at the top, team 2 down at the bottom as per usual, starting off with the northernmost position. We have Meme Tillium. Love the name. I'm in a meme channel with my siblings, and it's some of the funniest shit I think I've ever seen. Comes from one of my younger brothers. So anyway, love to see it. Then down to his south, we've got No 4K1, who's going Seraphim, opening first land. And we actually didn't talk about Meme Tillium because he's also going the greatest faction, also the one with the most meme potential. So, you know, I get it. And he's going Cybran first land. Next to Meme Tillium south, we have the Mad Lord, who's going Seraphim, opening first land. I mean, we'll see if this guy lives up to his name. I'm dubious, but we'll see. Next, we've got Sorcery, who's going first land as the Seraphim. And I think we just casted a game with Sorcery. This is not on purpose. Next, we've got Doctor and there should be a question mark there. It should be Doctor and Mr., maybe? Or Doctor and, I don't know. Convicted criminal? I don't know where that came from. Anyway, he's going Cybran, opening first land. Got a lot of power queued up as well. Let's shift our attention to team number 2, as I have a frog in my throat right now that I can't get rid of, and he's going Ribbit. All right, we've got Pepis, who's going UEF, opening first air, actually, on the front line. Interesting choice. His buddy to the south is Smithers, who's going UEF, opening first land. In what, again, I'm assuming is the rear guard air position here, we have Zaker 1991. I'm going to call him Caker because that's just easier to say, and I'm pretty sure that's what he was going for. He's going Cybran, first land, second air. Typical air player build order. And next we've got... Holy shit. Boanahawkte? I don't know what that is. It sounds kind of Native American, but I'm not sure. But he's going as the Aeon, opening first land, second air. And last but not least, as another Aeon, we have, oh my god, we have Boe Mahidingo, who's going Aeon, first, second, third land. I'm going to call this the red player and the green player. Because I can't do that. I don't know how to pronounce that. But let's talk about the map as we got players expanding. Interesting map layout. You've got a river, sort of, that runs through, I guess, not really the middle, but the northern part of the map. And I love this map for a couple of different reasons. There is way too much mass up here to not expand to that. So it means that our players, Meme Tillium, and this is going to be No 4K, gonna have to expand out here and contest this. Same with our red player and green player, who I can't pronounce their names. They're gonna have to get up here and contest this. Otherwise, they look at just an incredible mass deficit. So love to see that. The other side of the map is kind of an open ocean, which is also really, really cool. Because if the southern players decide to just do nothing and sit in their base, they're going to be bombarded by torpedoes, not torpedoes, cruise missiles, battleships, as well as if we have any Salem tech that ends up getting given over to Smithers here. So, like this map, I would call this a good map if you've seen my good maps versus bad maps video, because this forces you to play the entire map instead of sitting in one particular spot. I know that video was like a highly controversial video. And I'll just go back and say, you know, if you like playing Dual Gap, you like playing Astro Crater, you like playing Thermo, then the most important thing is that you're having fun, okay? And I know that there are a lot of people that like those games, or that like those maps. I'm not one of them, and, you know, that's fine. You can like your maps, and I can like my maps. It's just my personal opinion. You're free to disagree with it. As we've got some frigates and some scout planes coming out from No 4K, as well as our red player here. Seraphim versus Aeon. Seraphim should win, although there are a couple of Auroras here for the red player, so they're both just going to choose to disengage. Or no. No, 4K says no, and wants to go back in. Actually, he just wants to sit there and maybe get some radar coverage. Transport going to get shot down there from Pepes, but Pepes has already dropped 2 engineers there, getting some land factories up. So that's good. We're seeing some good commitment here from team number 2. They've got 3 players all making a play for this northern section. And actually, same thing from team number 1. 3 players in the... Actually, no. That's 4 players with Kaker up here in the corner. So we'll see if all four of those players are going to stretch themselves a little too thin here, or do they just absolutely crush the northern section? I don't think they're going to crush it anytime soon. That's 8 land factories up for Team 1 already. To 1, 2, 3, and 4 there for Team number 2. So Team number 2 have way more players showing representation up here to contest, but nowhere near the amount of manufacturing capacity. And you can see that translating into number of units. We've got a ton of Mantis and BAMs coming off the line for Team number 1 there. And more planned, and a lot more of the mexes are actually captured at this point in the game. And that's just going to be Pepes getting run over here. Essentially, he's only got 1 land factory that's producing engineers, nothing else. The only engineer that's done is hightailing it out of there, hoping for, I don't know, mercy, I guess. Did y'all ever play that game in school, Mercy? Or it was like, at least the way that I played it was, you like held 2 hands out, then you had a friend, quote unquote, and y'all like basically held both of each other's hands, and then just tried to twist each other's hands into an area that hurt the most, so you called Mercy. Did y'all ever play that? I don't know. Throwback to like elementary school, which for me was like, shit, what was it? Early 2000s? Yeah, I was dating myself here. Yeah, I was in elementary school in the early 2000s. But either way, we have our green player getting just absolutely rolled. Our red player has a land factory here, but the amount of T1 that is coming out of the 2 players from team number 1 that have committed to this strategy is relatively overwhelming. Kaker does have 2 land factories up here, is trying to put a little bit of pressure on here, but honestly all it takes is one of these players just turning their attention and telling Kaker to fuck off of this island. And they're actually just paying attention to the green player down here is Bowie H getting absolutely smacked his Tech 1 army. And on the mainland, which we haven't really talked about because there's been a lot of action up here, we do have our other green player, who is Dr. And, pressuring pretty hard with Tech 1. And then down here in the Navy, Smithers making a lot of good progress here. Does seem to have at least preliminary naval control. He has not made a naval block yet, but definitely has more ships out compared to his compatriot. And our red player is going to have to go into the water here or suffer the consequences. Actually, a couple of good overcharges would be really good. Do you have overcharge? Should I check?
Commander under attack.
Well, he has the storage, but does not have the E income. He's going to bring in some frigates, though, to give himself a little bit of extra fire support and then duck out into the water. Except he's not really a duck. He's more just swimming or walking. He's doing a Pacific Rim kind of thing. But point defense has been brought up and will soon be brought down as the Tech 1 push continues. Hydro now at risk of going down too. A couple of artillery shells coming in. That's going to do a pretty significant amount of damage. And there it goes. So this is a good T1 push here, but you know, at the end of the day, You got a hydro and a mex, and you're going to deposit a lot of reclaim. And we haven't talked about this, but our red player is 2,000 rated, so I would assume that he is well versed in the art of the reclaim. Meanwhile, some comm on comm action here. Pepes with Tech 2, Dr. And with both gun and stealth. Pepes falling back to Tech 1 point defense here. Gonna have to cancel though. Whatever he was building. He's trying to get a triad up, but it's taking a lot of fire and not really giving a whole lot of fire back. It's these Tech 1 point defense that are doing most of the work here as Pepes drops briefly into the red there and is now well in the red. Overcharge out on the Tech 1 PD brings them all really low. Dr. And is in a dangerous spot. Overcharges the Tech 1 PD. Tech 2 PD for Pepes now coming up here very soon. Not soon enough. There it goes. And I think that's going to cause Dr. And to back up here. Or no, he's still committing. He's going in on that triad, throws an overcharge. Triad is down. Pepes now in full retreat. Trying to get some extra Tech 1 point defense up here. Trying to get a triad back here, but the overcharges are just absolutely decimating there from Dr. And, who has now walked himself into quite a bit of Tech 1 PD fire. He's going in for Pepes here. Could mutual if he decides he wants to commit for it. Decides not to, actually. Peels off. I think this is going to work out a lot better than the last cast we saw where somebody peeled off. Because he's out of the Tech 1 PD range now. Let's have a commander with what appears to be a very healthy energy income behind him. As he's overcharging quite a bit. Gets a nice rank of veterancy. Now he's feeling a hell of a lot better up there. He's even got engineers trying to get his own Tech 1 PD up behind him. And Pepes has got a triad back here that is now laying into Dr. And that triad might have enough range with the second one coming up. It might be enough firepower to force Dr. And off of this line here. So he does have an auto gun up. Pepe is probably going to lose that factory. But great push there from Dr. And. Does secure himself, at least well, it actually isn't secure. I probably wouldn't call that secure with the triads that are looking over it. Somebody's going to try and grab some of this reclaim. Sorcery going to try and grab some of this reclaim, who has been embroiled in some naval conflicts of his own over here in the South Pond. And speaking of naval conflicts, we haven't talked about the one that's going up in the northern area. As we have Aeon, actually hover spam. Willow would be so proud to see the blazes. Although Willow would also probably quite heartbroken to not see any asylums. But that is a decently commanding naval force there. Only problem is I don't think that it has any AA. So is vulnerable to torpedo strikes and or bombers or gunships or literally anything else that can spit out of a plane. But as of right now, naval yards there for No 4K, not looking super good. As naval yards going down, and we'll call that a win. What has also been a win, though, for team number one is it looks like everybody except for our red player has been almost entirely evicted off of this island. So that means that they get access to the grand total of a lot of mexes. Well, fuck it, let's count them. Memetillion has 10 mexes there. No 4K has 9 mexes there. So that is 19 mexes that that Team 2 does not have. But one thing that Team 2 does have is a strat. And they're going after sorcery here. I'm sure sorcery is thrilled about this. But one thing I do want to talk about with 19 mexes is you think about it and you say, okay, 19 mexes, that's 2 mass per mex. as that strat is going to get shot down here. It's going to bag itself, I think, 2 mech skills. So by and large, I think team number 1 got off easy there. But if you think about mexes, okay, there are 19 mexes up here for team number 1. Okay, that means that they are getting an additional 48-ish income. That's assuming, and some of these are even at Tech 2. But let's assume they're all at Tech 1. That means 48-ish additional income, right? Okay. Now, you might think it ends there, but it's also a negative 48-ish income there for team number 2. So the overall swing is closer to 100, which is pretty important. If you deny a mex from your opponent and you take it for yourself, that's not a 1 mex swing. That's a 2 mex swing. Because you are not only taking that mass for yourself, but you are also denying the equivalent amount of mass for your opponent. So something to think about whenever you're thinking about mexes, because you might think like, oh, I just lost 3 mexes. That's fine. The other guy got him. It's not the end of the world. And, it might not be the end of the world, but that wasn't a 3 mex swing. That was a 6 total mex difference between your income and your opponent's income. Meanwhile, Tech 2 pushing very hard on Dr. And's forward position. Dr. And has kind of been the primary land player here for team number 1. And, he invested a lot in this push, and I don't think he got a ton out of it. The Triads were able to, I think, secure that reclaim field. And now we have our red player rolling with blazes in through his base. Blazes, we've talked about them before ad nauseum. They're good, kind of fast assault tanks. They're good at raiding. They're not great in like a stand-up slugfest. But if you see here, our red player is using them for exactly what I would think their strength is. Just trying to get in as quickly as possible behind enemy lines, do as much damage as possible. And if you lose them, you lose them. It's not the end of the world. They're also not super expensive. But you can see the amount of damage that they're doing here. There is a Tech 1 point defense here from Madlord that is going to go down. Madlord also going to lose a good number of engineers. Additional Tech 1 PD here, but holy shit, there are so many blazes. And I think the blazes should be hitting the engineers. Instead, I think they're hitting the PD, even the unfinished PD. Okay, now they're going after the mexes. So probably want to go for the engineers and then the mexes. But by and large, not the worst raid ever. You bagged a good number of mexes, killed off a good amount of power. And you forced your opponent into building a lot of PD that they probably didn't want to build and are still building in their base. Only downside is you deposited a significant amount of reclaim there, but it's not the end of the world. What might be the end of the world here for sorcery, though, is this naval conflict that is brewing here. Sorcery has 3 destroyers and has paused his naval factory. And I'm looking at Smithers, and Smithers I don't think has... He has a couple of destroyers, nowhere near as many. But he does have the shield boats, which are a huge boon to the UEF T2. It's going to allow Smithers to effectively increase the HP of his army by a pretty significant margin. Because these shield boats have really, really good AoE. And I forgot the exact HP on the shield, but it's not a small amount. That means that the destroyers for sorcery have to get through not only the shields, but then to all the boats that are killing them. Or they can commit and go in for close range, in which case the frigates that Smithers has here is going to overwhelm them. So I don't think Smithers realizes how commanding of a situation he has here. And sorcery definitely doesn't realize how commanding of a situation Smithers has here, or else sorcery probably wouldn't be advancing like that. We'll take a break from talking about Navy here and go up to the north. Is we've got Meantilium with the gunships here, trying to deal with our red player's Tech 1 spam. And our red player, to his credit, still exists on this island. And is investing huge amounts of resources to try and hold it. And is losing huge amounts of resources to try and hold it. From all of these factories that are running at full tilt. And we now have, those are hoplites out. Okay, I initially thought those were Ilshivas. I was like, oh baby. You want to see a fight that looks like Mark Zuckerberg fighting Elon Musk? Look at an Ilshiva fighting a Blaze. I'll let y'all decide who's going to win that cage match. I, for one, am just super excited for the memes that are going to come out of it. There's absolutely no way that Elon Musk can even hope to compete with Mark Zuckerberg. Like, Mark Zuckerberg trains pretty hard in jiu-jitsu and MMA, as far as I understand. And Elon Musk looks kind of like, I don't know, not great. I mean, super smart guy, richest guy in the world. Like, you know, how are you going to knock that? At least I think he's the richest guy in the world. But yeah, he looks kind of like somebody shoved a bunch of vanilla custard into a plastic bag and then left it outside for a really long time. Okay. All right, naval engagement here. And you can start to see how effective these shield boats are. Unfortunately, Smithers doesn't really have his shield boats in a great spot. But that, with the naval superiority that he has just landed him an absolutely crushing victory here over sorcery. And also given him a little bit of reclaim to work with, too, if he wants to drop for that. Or just float engineers out there. But needs to make sure his frigates don't get super far away, because the frigates will get eaten alive by the destroyers. And also needs to make sure that the destroyers don't walk too far away, because the destroyers will also get eaten alive by the destroyers. But now they're back in the shields. And I might have been incorrect earlier. Smithers might be a little bit too far forward here. He does still have a couple of destroyers that are back here dishing it out. But actually quite a few more since we last looked at him. Sorcery has come out with several more destroyers. Like 4 or 5 more. And that has definitely tipped the balance in Sorcery's favor. For the time being down there. We'll check back in on that fight in a second. Wanted to quickly look at the hoplites, and we do have Tech 3 up here for our red player. And that is going to be too much for the hoplites to deal with. As the hoplites now become Elon Musk, and Harbingers now become Mark Zuckerberg. I guess that'll just be the theme of the cast here, the Zuck-Elon fight. Anyway, now Smithers getting pinned back into his naval base here. But Sorcery significantly overextending. He is moving his cruisers or his destroyers into range of all of these frigates, as well as this battle cruiser. And that is going to be a pretty decisive victory there. That was a potentially lane-losing mistake there for Smithers. Not for, yeah, for Sorcery. To push into that. And I get it, you know. You feel like you're in a really, really good spot. The bad guy's on the run. You're feeling really good. But then a battle cruiser comes out and just wrecks your shit. Anyway, looking at the rest of the map, you got Our red player starting to make progress back here. We do have Tech 3 out there for no 4K. And a chicken. So this little army gonna slice through a lot of this like a hot knife through butter until it runs into the frozen chicken up there. And yeah, you got to get a knife really, really, really hot before it'll go through a frozen chicken. Something about like thermal capacity and specific heat. I don't know. I didn't pass geometry. Also got bricks out from Memetilium. We'll check back on that in a second. And yeah, I guess going back to the north here, because that seems to be where a lot of the action is. I thought there was going to be stuff going on in the southern sea. I also had to take a couple seconds because my dogs freaked out. I don't know, it was the mailman or the milkman, and my wife was running away with them, you know, just standard stuff. But anyway, that chicken is decimating our red player's Tech 1 forces here. And our red player is actually pretty seriously in danger of losing his foothold here. What kind of air assets do we have? Well, this is really good for team number 2. As I don't think sorcery can stop this. He does have a sub-hunter out. But that is a little bit too little too late, I think, at this point. And there are torpedo bombers out, so we'll see how that works in a second. But I want to check on air assets to deal with this chicken. And there are 0. They're actually airlifting in engineers for some reason. I guess for reclaim. I'm going to try and just grab as much of the reclaim here before that chicken looks at all that as chicken feed sprinkled around a farmyard and goes for it. But down here, yeah. Tech 3 Naval HQ gonna go down. Smithers, or Sorcery, God. Sorcery trying to get up some point defense here. But that's gonna be real short-lived. Up against the flotilla of destroyers there in the bay. Actually, Sorcery's commander here taking quite a bit of torpedo fire from the destroyers as well. As you can see him dropping there into the yellow, only got about 8k HP, and is about to start taking direct fire from these destroyers and the frigates. Down under 4,000 HP. Sorcery is down. That was way faster than I thought it was going to happen, but as soon as that battlecruiser locked in, it was over. The battlecruiser did like 2,000 damage in like one hit. It is having to deal with a lot of torpedo bombers though. There are air assets here from both our red player as well as Caker. But that chicken, our red player is also having to deal with the chicken. Who is kind of running because our red player does have a good amount of Exodus here. And Exodus at least can deal out a good amount of damage. I don't think they'll be able to stand and fight for very long as soon as that chicken gets into range, but the chicken has to get into range first. And it is supported by some Othams as well as some bricks. So it's not like the chicken is standing here on its own. It's splitting up a lot of the fire. And actually the chicken not even really being that targeted. So very healthy up there over 60,000 HP still. Just needs to wipe the rest of this and then start dealing with the bigger threat, which is the Navy. And all these Tech 3 units can easily deal with the stream of fervors that are coming out of the factories. Even got some airlifted engineers here. As an air fight starting to kick off. do have Meme Tillium, who has now taken over the naval game there from No 4K. If y'all remember earlier, No 4K got evicted from the Navy maybe 15 minutes ago or so. And we haven't talked a whole lot about the middle, but Pepes now has a Fat Boy out, and Dr. And trying to get some bricks in to help, I think, the North. Doesn't want to go toe-to-toe with the Fat Boy, and I can't blame him. I wouldn't want to go toe-to-toe with a Fat Boy either. You know, with all the guns and just the immense size of it all. You know, once that thing gets moving, you know, I feel like it'd just run me over. Oh, but these are all Team 1's torpedo bombers. I had a brain fart there. So, Team 1 looks like they won a kind of decisive air engagement earlier. Our red player has a couple of ASF, but not very many. It looks like they were able to clean out the lion's share of the torpedo bombers. But now they're having to deal with... Now our red player's having to deal with naval pressure coming in, as well as the bricks that are now starting to make landfall that the Fat Boy didn't kill off. But our red player does have a GC here that is now going toe-to-toe with the Athota that we talked about earlier. God, this red player. Bowie Mahidingo. I'm not trying to be racist by saying that. I think that's genuinely how you say it. Is doing a lot for his team here. And it makes sense. He is the 2000 rated player. But gunships are going to chase the chicken into the water. Chicken not looking very healthy. Neither is the GC. GC actually might go down. Yep. Okay, just barely. Only a couple of Othams left. So at least our red player is going to be able to pick up that reclaim. We did have gunships, so some whalers coming in there from Caker. And Pepe is even now trying to help out here with his Fat Boy. Very low, though. And that Fat Boy is going to go down. Didn't quite get under the shield. Too many battleships in the bay to be able to deal with. Almost got one of them, but there are, you know, 4 of them out here. So, you know. And that chicken is now back. It's now back for more. That used to be my psych up song whenever I was swimming. Back for more. 5-finger death punch. Y'all like heavy metal? Go check out that one. I like 5-finger death punch. Outside of the fact that they got a rad name, they also have some pretty decent guitar solos. Seen them live a couple of times. One of them was on like some sort of platform and got lifted like, I don't know, 30 feet or so in the air. I was a little drunk at the time, so, you know, maybe he just got on a stepladder and I was like, oh my God, 30 feet in the air. Look at that. Hey, he's playing a solo. But I think it was actually a little bit more than a step stool. Either that or it was the world's most expensive step stool ever. Because it looked like it had like hydraulics and stuff like that. Okay, Sam's now being set up there from Pepes in the middle. We haven't talked at all about economy, but it should be noted that now that team number 1 controls this whole little satellite mainland there, that is why there is a 230,000-ish mass lead. Despite our chip leader, I believe, being our the red player. No, it is not. Pepes doing really great. Actually, our red player is not. It's not even close. Got multiple players up over 400 mass per tick, that's pretty impressive at 30 minutes into the game. Holy shit. 12 and 1300 level players have gotten better. I'm gonna start losing a lot now, aren't I? I'm gonna lose all my rating. As the GC now engages the Galaxies. doing a proper Pacific Rim reenactment. Standing in the water there, using its laser beams to destroy the aliens, even though they're also humans and are using very human-made battleship thingies. Also taking a shitload of fire. But it still looks awesome, the Pacific Rim reenactment. I always thought the GC looked like the what was the one with 3 arms that the triplets piloted that like fought for all of 15 seconds and then got their asses handed to them in the first movie? Good air fight though. As Madlord gonna lose ASF. Our green player, who has mostly been focused on air, and we haven't talked a whole lot about him. That was a great airplay though. Covered these gunships. And these gunships gonna bag themselves another battleship kill. And I don't think there are any cruisers up here, and there are no SAMs. So these gunships, you know, they're gonna take fire from the frigates, but yeah, it's not really gonna be that big of a deal for them. Unless you get a lot of frigates. They'll be able to bag themselves another battleship here, depending on if Kager wants to commit. Or if Madlord decides to show back up with ASF. Kager does have his ASF, though, on the case. And that's one of the hard things about diving for gunships is... if you're diving for gunships, or a Tsar or anything like that, you're gonna have to expose your ASF. So even if the opposing player has fewer ASF than you, by diving for gunships, you are putting yourself at a disadvantage in the ensuing air fight. It's better to take the ASF on before you deal with the gunships instead of going for the gunships first. As a megalith standing toe-to-toe with the fat boy with the broadsword, which is also a pretty terrifying thing if you envision it. But the broadsword is going to chase this megalith all the way back. The fat boy decided he didn't want to deal with the crabs, which I can't really say that I blame him. As we do have another crab here showing up, and there's a lot of T3 in this mix, but not a ton of AA. We've only got 3 bouncers here, and they're walking very close to Smithers controlled naval space, who incidentally now has a battleship that can cover this whole area very, very well. Some pretty good damage. Smithers also got a ton of governors out here, trying to make life as difficult as possible for Dr. And. Looks like Dr. And actually responding with a Monkey Lord here. As we do have another air fight. Green player getting caught out a little bit, trying to fight 2 air forces at the same time. It's not easy. It's especially not easy whenever you're over lightning tanks. It does look like they do kill off one of the ASF forces, though. As the GC from our red player is now starting to push up. But even after fighting over lightning tanks, they were still able to do all right. And our green player still does maintain at least a small semblance of air superiority. There have been a lot of air fights. No air player is actually getting up to like 100, 200 ASF. Because they're fighting so often with them. Hard to get up to those kind of numbers. As we do have a GC pushing up through the middle with a fat boy in tow. That's going to run into a crab as well as a chicken. That GC is just going to evaporate. As long as the chicken actually focuses it. Actually, it doesn't even matter. The GC can't hit anything anyway. So it's literally just standing out here being a punching bag. And the fat boy out of position. allows itself to get in range of the chicken. What an odd experimental engagement here. As it looks like both the Mega... Maybe the Mega? No, the Mega is going to make it. The chicken has chased the Fat Boy out of range, and the Fat Boy is going to go down. So that's a... Both experimentals going down for team number 2. That's a pretty good trade for them. They'd be pretty happy with that. I'd be pretty happy with that. I think anybody would be pretty happy with that. So we're all happy. Yay. As we now have a RAS upgrade coming in there for Mad Lord. How many ASF have these SAMs killed? Okay, nowhere near as many as I thought. It seems like every time I turn around, ASF are running into this SAM base, but... Obviously, I haven't been able to convert that to kills. What will be able to get converted to kills, though, are gunships on this chicken. As well as a Fat Boy. A Fat Boy loves himself some chicken. And that chicken is going to go down in an electric ball of fury. As the gunships now pivot away, bricks are going to turn tail and run for their lives. That was a good land push. I don't know. Maybe it was a good land push. It seemed more like a mass donation to me. It's hard to push land on this map. There's a lot of choke points, a lot of things you got to get around, especially with Smithers controlling the Navy. What I don't really get is why Dr. And is so obsessed with pushing past Smithers' Navy. You have another way in that is controlled by your team's Navy. Go that way. I don't get it. I feel like my casts are half play-by-play, half me getting pissed off at other people, half me making off-colored jokes, and half me, I don't know, telling some stupid story about my life. But either way, it's fun. It looks like there's artillery up. Let me see where it is. Let's figure out where this artillery is. Okay, so we got a disruptor here. Best artillery in the game, bar none. Nobody can come close to it. Duke coming in. And I believe the Duke I put in second place. Emissary almost done. Highest damage, lowest shield suppression rate. Biggest piece of shit I've ever seen from artillery. I'm being harsh, you know. But I want to say there was artillery that I saw going the opposite direction as well, unless it's already died. Is there artillery over here? Artillery? Hello? Yes, disruptor right here, second one. Coming up on halfway done. Okay, the problem though is that is near, oh, Jesus, we've gone full artillery spam mode. As we do have another air fight breaking out between Caker and Mad Lord. Mad Lord should be able to win that. Although that was really terrible air micro there as he showed his ass to his opponent. Smithers has a megalith here. This is looking very difficult. I would not have called this 20 minutes ago with team number 1 controlling all of this mass up here. I would not have called team 2 being in a commanding spot right now, which I think they are. They have more artillery units. They have an experimental that is, well, currently running away, but able to just level Sorcery's base with naval assistance. And they've dealt with every single experimental push that have come their way. I don't know why we have a stream of Zooies just walking into point defense, but, you know, hey. This isn't bar. For those of you all that might not know, it is very common in bar to like set a bunch of land factor or bot labs, I guess they're called, to just make what are essentially light assault bots and just have them run non-stop. And they're used as like a distraction kind of thing. But that was a devastating hit on the build power. Both artillery units did survive. But lots of build power going down. I think there's 3 shields left. Need to get on with getting a couple more shields, most likely. These are Seraphim shields, so they are pretty tough. There's also a Novax out from Pepis. And there was another artillery that was getting built, I thought. Maybe not. Maybe it was only Nano 4K that had built artillery. That's going to clip the power generator. All right, damage over time from the emissary. Did do some work there. I'll give you all that. Gonna try and get another shield gen up. All right, so maybe the emissary in conjunction with the disruptor. I could see it being pretty good. Because these disruptors are kind of keeping the shields from recharging entirely. As long as they're firing at them, actually. And the emissary kind of comes in for, you know, the death blow punch. Which I can sort of get behind. So we do now have a megalith out for Dr. And here. And this has just kind of turned into a stalemate. That is a base that is pretty important for Dr. And to hold. There's a lot of Tech 3 mexes there. Our red player caught himself in a really, really bad air fight initially, but I think he has the numbers here to be able to pull it out. I wonder how many ASF Mad Lord would be able to afford if he didn't have this constant stream of Zooies just marching into these Ravagers and Triads. Like these Ravagers, like these guys have tons of kills on them. Yeah, they're now taking Galaxy Fire, but, you know, you win some, you lose some. 41 minutes. 41 minutes into the game. I still haven't taken a drink yet. My wife made me this, like, tequila orange drink. Let's see how it is. That's... I think she just took an orange peel and put it in tequila. Okay, that wasn't great. I'm gonna have to have a talk with my wife about mixers. Okay. All right. It's kind of the same. Artillery is pounding. The fat boy is pounding forward. We got several nukes firing off. Okay. Did not see all the plan Bs. As well as multiple missile silos. So could... What the hell is happening? Was that a self nuke? Or did the nuke blow up in the silo? Is that possible? All right, so no nuke defense for our red player. No nuke defense for our green player. And we do have nuke defense for our pink player that is not loaded. Oh my God. Holy shit. As I think Smithers just decided, okay. I think Smithers got nuked there too.
Strategic launch detected.
And there's more coming. Casting this after the 4th of July, but this would have been a banging cast to put on the 4th of July. And I always watch my casts before I cast them because I want to make sure it's a good game. This was one that I actually didn't finish. I stopped watching this one about 10 minutes ago because I was like, this is going to be a pretty good game to watch. So I had no idea that happened. Okay, but that's 3 players out for Team 2. So now all we got left are Caker and Sorcery. Strike that. All we have left, Caker and Smithers. God damn it. And Smithers is actually recalling from battle. All right, so maybe I should have watched this one all the way through. But that's a crazy end to the game, I think. And I had a hell of a lot of fun with this cast. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Anywho, you know, do the YouTube hokey pokey. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. Yeah, don't know what else to tell you guys. I'm still like on a little bit of an adrenaline rush from the sip of that terribly made drink that I just had a little bit earlier, as well as the like 7 nukes that just landed in the last 2 minutes. So anyway, if y'all appreciated it, please show your support. Click that subscribe, click that like button, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.